Well, how do we start?
How do we start every time? We need
I'm
telling you,
we need a theme song.
A theme song.
I like an acapella. Skibbity deep bop doo.
You don't want me freestyling.
Dork walks. Well, we're awkwardly, dorkily getting into our first Dork Walks in a long time.
It's been a while.
Been a while. I'm Sam.
I'm Jay.
And welcome back to Dork Walks. I think the last one we did was in the fall.
This is episode 5, I believe. Yeah.
I guess, yes. Should probably be episode, 10 by now or something.
5 is a benchmark for me. I was like, will we get to 5? And now we're here.
We're at 5. We made it. We sort of planned on doing a winter episode and just, life, pandemic, whatever, just never happened.
It's hard to do it with the mask.
Yeah.
The pandemic mask.
Now we're fully vaxxed and
ready to rock.
Ready to chillax. Oh, that's terrible. We're heading into Winnick Woods in Cape Elizabeth today. And instead of doing the typical current obsession and stuff like that, we're gonna just kind of do a high level, pandemic catch up session of all the stuff we've, kind of been watching or playing or enjoying since we last did this. And then we kind of in exciting post-pandemic news, we went to a real live movie theater the other night.
Huge step.
Yes, that was exciting. And saw A Quiet Place 2. So we'll do a little review of that. Yeah, do you have anything in mind you want to start with, or?
I don't have anything in particular, but I guess I have a general tone about pandemic media. Mm-hmm. And certainly when you go into isolation in a bizarre situation like that, coming up with a crazy presidency, and you kind of look to turn to comfort food of television and movies as a way to kind of get you through or make things seem normal or just kind of distract you from what's going on. And I have to say, previously I've voiced some of my concerns about the streaming wars and the just the drop in quality versus quantity kind of conundrum.
Yeah.
They're just putting out they have to put out so much stuff to compete with one another.
Right.
So I went into, you're in kind of a negative place during that lockdown most of the time, and I was just in hate mode for the most. So I was just not enjoying most things.
Yeah.
But I did land on some great stuff. And my favorite thing my two favorite things I found. The first one was called Call My Agent. It's a French show. It's on Netflix. And
you told me to watch that, and I haven't yet, but I want to.
I told a lot of people to watch it. I think about half. So it kind of focuses on this talent agent, this management company in Paris, this Parisian talent agency that manages French actors, actresses, directors. And it's kind of, I guess you'd call, it's definitely a comedy with some, I guess maybe a dramedy you'd call it. It's very much in the vein of kind of The Office or something.
Okay.
But not shot in that docudrama style. It's shot like a traditional, drama. But what I loved about it so much was, in addition to the comedy, the kind of the twist or the spin on the show is that they use actual French celebrities playing themselves.
Oh,
so,
that's cool.
Actual directors, actors and directors.
Go this way.
Not that I am familiar with them, most of them.
I was gonna say how many French celebrities turned up that you knew.
I was on IMDb a lot. Is this a real actor? Or is this a character? But it was still pretty entertaining. A lot of them portrayed themselves in very unflattering ways. Kind of the way that you would see on a Ricky Gervais show.
Yeah, that's always good.
That Ricky Gervais. It reminded me of Extras a little bit in that.
Oh God.
But then the other really interesting aspect of the show is just the setting in Paris and France was just such a each episode is just this gorgeous escape because
it's good escapism for the viewer, right?
Yeah, and it just made me so jonesing to go back to France.
That's fun.
But it was people out in fabulous restaurants, eating fabulous food, and just going to fabulous movie premieres and drink, out at fabulous bars, drinking fabulous cocktails. So when you're when you're locked up by yourself, that all seems very appealing.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Totally.
But I thought it was a funny show. I highly recommend it. I think there's 4 seasons. I think it's 8 episodes per season. And it's a massive international hit, apparently.
I was in sort of a similar boat of, you know, trying a show and being like, nah, and just bagging on it. Kind of going back to some classic movies. But I mean, one of the cool things that I have enjoyed was I got a PlayStation 5, which is no small feat. And I was gonna talk a little bit about just like you know, a couple of the games, but actually like the hunt for the PlayStation 5 was actually really kind of fun. It kind of reminded me of like, you know, back in the day when there'd be a console launch and, you know, all the nerds would like line up, you know, at the store. I never like lined up the night before, but there's always like a little bit of a nerdy like hunter, gatherer, collector thrill of like trying to track down something that's hard to find, you know, because like this day and age, everything's so easy to find. We have like everything at our fingertips, you know, games, movies, music, whatever. It's like, I used to love going to record stores as a teenager and like trying to find some, you know, album that my friend's older brother told me was cool or whatever, and like not finding it until I visited my dad in like the city and then finding it at some cool store there, you know, that type of thing. And my friends all being like, whoa, you found that? That, you know, it just doesn't happen anymore. So it was kind of fun. Like, you know, PS5s are in high demand, in short supply.
Chip shortage and all that.
Yeah. So, you know, and I wasn't like in a super rush to get one, but I ended up getting a new 4K TV, and that kind of got me more like, okay, now my video games look like crap, so I want to like get the new, you know, 4K system. So I had to like follow all these like different Twitter accounts and like set up alerts and stuff so that anytime like there are accounts just dedicated to like PS5 tracking, like, oh, Walmart's got a drop right now, or Target's got a drop, or Amazon, you know, and then you'd basically have to go on that second, and you'd probably still not get it because everybody else is doing the same. But I did end up getting one. So that was kind of cool. And I haven't played a lot of new games actually, but I played Last of Us 2, which is very cool. I know it's a PS4 game, but looks great in HDR, you know, 4K on the PS5. I think earlier in the pandemic, I don't know if I could have stomached that game.
Yeah, I don't think I could handle it.
It's very, very bleak and grim, and it literally takes place in like mostly in a kind of post-pandemic Seattle. But you know, their pandemic's like a fungus zombie type situation. So, but I mean, incredible game. The narrative, the narrative, you know, storytelling. I think Naughty Dog, the developer, they really elevate the types of stories that video games tell and the way that they tell it. So it's just always enthralling to play through one of their games. The writing's super good, the voice acting and motion capture is super good, and the gameplay was great in this too. It just looks amazing.
It's one of the few games that I'm actually would be like, I'm usually kind of jealous that I can't play.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to see the HBO show.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, Craig Mazin is show running that, I believe. More recently, I got the new Spider-Man Miles Morales game, which is a PS5 native game, which just looks incredible.
I've seen the trailer for that. That looks amazing.
Yeah, and it's very fun. I mean, if anybody's played the PS4 Spider-Man game, it's basically like a continuation of that. So gameplay-wise, it's very similar. It's like an open world, New York City, but just like, you know, great mechanics, like the web swinging stuff just feels really good. You're kind of just zooming around the city doing flips and, you know,
I think I played the PS2 version.
Yeah,
there was one.
which was very cool at the time, and this is just so much more so. But just, you know, great game, great sort of story. It's kind of fun and light in that comic booky way, but, you know, satisfying to play so far. So
the next thing I found was HBO Max put up this series called Painting with John. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's like this kooky show. It's like written, directed, and starring John Lurie, the famous like jazz musician.
Yeah.
Some
Like
occasional movie star.
collaborates with like Jim Jarmusch and stuff. Yeah.
Super crazy guy. Crazy looking, crazy life.
Yeah.
So creative and just out there. So he shoots the whole thing himself. Or I think
really?
he has a producing partner. I think.
Okay.
But a lot of it he shoots because he has just wacky video from his drone. Like he tried to design the opening credits himself. So like it's just his drone flying around his property. He lives in some kooky island in the Caribbean. I don't know. where,
Really?
But
Wow.
and he's got this wacky house with like all surrounded by jungle, up in the hills looking out on the ocean.
Wow.
And the opening credits is just his drone kind of awkwardly flying around above the property and then just crashing into the house.
That's great.
Pretty great. But and then that's kind of the vibe of the show. It's just like him painting at night usually down in his studio, and he does these meticulous little watercolor paintings of these like weird kind of almost like implied narratives of hieroglyphics and like
What?
mythological characters.
Oh, wow.
But like a lot of also just like flora and fauna.
Huh.
But just insane. Like he uses gold leaf and like
Wow.
super little brushes. And then he shoots it from above, so you're just watching his hand paint, and like, it's watercolor, so like the pigment is spreading out.
Right.
Like
Interesting.
it's so soothing,
Does he talk
He's
through
talking
it, or-
over
okay.
it and telling crazy stories about like running into celebrities on planes flying between Paris and New York, and like what dicks they were to him, and like his childhood, and
Oh,
and he
funny.
like introduces his housekeeper who may or may not be his girlfriend. I can't tell, but like, and then there are things that he like. There's an episode where he's getting a bad vibe from a pair of sneakers, so he decides to light them on fire and stuff. It's just there's no narrative thread other than him painting and telling these crazy stories.
Right.
And also he does the soundtrack. So the soundtrack is
yeah.
this kooky experimental jazz soundtrack. But really cool. Anyway,
What an idea for a show. That's funny.
I was obsessed with it.
I need to check that out.
I had to like limit myself to one night.
You could just be like staring at it till like 4 a.m. if you
It's
didn't
just
watch it.
I'm just amazed at like who greenlit this show.
Right,
It's like
right.
it's one of the most interesting and experimental things I've seen in a long time ever make it to, obviously there's tons of that shit on YouTube. But
Sure, yeah.
But to be on HBO Max,
Right.
like maybe it's because it was just a pandemic and they were like, just dump it all on
Right,
there.
right.
I want to find out who the programming director is and just send them a gift or something, because I just thought it was a gift from the gods.
That's
I thought
awesome.
It was the best thing I saw the whole pandemic almost.
Wow, I need to check that out.
Yeah.
I think some of the things we both saw were Tenet, Justice League, like Snyder Cut, that's what they call it, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we could touch a little bit on some of those. Did you like any of those things?
I did not like any of those things.
Okay.
I'm loath to admit, Tenet, I didn't like it just because I didn't understand it. Like Christopher Nolan has fully like gone beyond my level of comprehension. I turned 50 this year, and I think I'm losing my intellectual capacity to understand Christopher Nolan films. But I just couldn't keep up with it. And also, I thought John David Washington, who was the star, was just like really wooden and boring. I had no interest. I didn't care. I didn't care what that guy was doing from like the first 10 minutes on.
Yeah, I feel like this. I normally like Nolan films. I mean, I think he, has a very good visual flair for sure. And,
I do too.
But this reminded me of Inception, which is like, I know a lot of people love it, but that's one of my least favorite Christopher Nolan films. Like, the problem with Inception for me was just like, it's all in a dream, so I just stopped caring what happened to anybody. Like, the trailers looked so awesome, and like Paris is like folding in on itself. What is this?
It's amazing.
And when it turns out in the story it's like they're kind of dreaming, I was just like, oh well, I don't care then, And this one wasn't.
No stakes.
I wasn't no stakes. Yeah, I wasn't as disconnected that way from Tenet, but I kind of want to watch it again because I don't know if I liked it or not.
Yeah,
I watched it in. Like, I was kind of getting sleepy, and I watched it in a few sittings,
I did too. I was getting sleepy too, but I think that's a bad.
I know. Well, I know, but I feel like, to be fair, like I've been sitting down and watching anything and getting sleepy. So.
I know people that loved it. So
yeah.
People whose opinions I respect. So.
I feel like it did a lot of, it starts out, pretty confusing, and then they do like too much exposition dump on you. So it's kind of like too little and then too much info.
Yeah.
The time travel concept in it is very cool and like interesting, unique, well thought out, like, but I don't know really how well it even plays into the story, and like I didn't find the ending very satisfying. And
he says it's not time travel in interviews though.
Well, sure, okay, yes, it's not, but like it's you know what I mean, it plays with time, and it's sort of like an alternate
plays with reverse
reality. Yeah. Anyway, I kind of want to watch it again to like see if I could stay awake through all of it, if I would like it better, or on a second viewing maybe.
He's got an amazing track record for sure.
Yeah.
I still go back and watch like, not Memento, but is Memento the one with Guy Pearce?
Yeah, Memento. Yeah,
that one I love.
And that's one where super confusing and like you're playing catch up the whole time, but it's done so in such a satisfying way where like the payoff is huge when everything kind of clicks into place.
Yeah.
Whereas Tenet was kind of like you're being strung along and you're like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then there's none of that like, oh my god, payoff. It's kind of like, what? That's kind of weird.
That's the thing. Like Memento plays out more like an M. Night Shyamalan, like big payoff.
Right.
And then this plays out just where you're like halfway through, you're looking at your watch and you're like, oh man, this is just gibberish.
And then when they kind of explain, instead of like a oh my god moment, it's like well, you see, they're going backwards because they go into the thing, and then they just kind of do this long, detailed explanation of what's happening. You're like, okay.
You say so, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's how this movie works now, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Jury's out for me on that one. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You didn't. Oops, we got a bike. All right, hold on, I'm gonna pause.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. This is one of my favorite mountain bike routes, so I'm not surprised I wouldn't be surprised if we get interrupted several times by mountain bikers.
This is like the only place that's where there's a section maintained by number, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is like,
we probably should tell people so they don't come.
I know. This loop in here is like the smoothest biking around, so it's popular. Maine is known for its like rockiness and rootiness. So
I took my gravel bike through here, and I was
I did too.
Pushing the limits, I gotta say.
Yeah, I do that every once in a while. I go out on my gravel bike, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do mostly a road ride, and every fucking time, cut to me 5 minutes later, and I'm like, go.
I had some mountain bikers. I had to pull over, kind of pull to the side to let some mountain bikers rip past me, and they were just like, what are you doing out here on that thing, man? I'm like, dude,
like being a badass.
Don't break my balls.
Yeah. Look at you with your cushy tires and your suspension. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you didn't care for that at all?
I mean, I never got into it. It was like it's a movie. It's a show with no antagonist. I mean, there's no the antagonist is that cute little freckle-faced red-haired girl.
Right.
She did not seem like a bad.
Well, then
guy.
the new Captain America is kind of the antagonist too, right?
That was kind of interesting. I guess I didn't hate it, but I just was like. I just kept being like, I guess I'll fucking watch another episode of this. And then I was like, nah, this is dumb.
I was pretty impressed. I mean, I think maybe...
I thought Baron Zemo was like the most interesting character in the whole show.
I think maybe for me, like, I started watching that on the heels of Justice League, which we'll get into in a minute. The Snyder Cut, that is.
All things being relative.
And this was like, oh, damn, like, Marvel's doing a good job. And it's a show, and it looks like almost as good as their movies. And to me, that's always such a big sticking point, is like shows look shitty.
It did feel like big production.
It looked fucking great. Yeah. The cinematography was awesome. Effects were high level enough that they didn't, stick out. I mean, it probably doesn't look quite as good as their movies, but pretty close, like close enough, I thought it was fun, and I always liked actually both those characters, the Winter Soldier and Falcon, I thought were cool in the movie. So it was cool to sort of see them as an on-screen duo.
Kind of like Winter Soldier because he's a little conflicted as a character,
Right.
you know. But
Right.
I don't know. Anthony Mackie, he's a great guy, really. Like he's kind of handsome and stuff, and like, but he's kind of just a boring actor, I think. I think the Falcon's kind of a boring character. I don't know. I just wasn't that interested. But like I said, I'm in the hate mode. So
Right,
I was
right.
hating everything. So
Yeah.
take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I guess I couldn't like it that much because I kind of slowed down on it. I just watched the last episode last night because I realized I hadn't.
Oh, right on.
And I thought we might talk about it. So fun, well-made entertainment, I would
You've
say.
been absorbed into the Disney Borg for sure.
Yes, exactly.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid or
Yeah.
taking the red pill, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, we get a lot of mileage out of the Disney Plus in my household. But yeah, the Snyder Cut, I don't think either of us liked that.
No, that was a tough one.
That was hard.
It was like 7 hours, wasn't it, or something, or 6?
No, four,
Felt like 7.
20.
It was. I was kind of mildly amazed though by the fact that they were actually able to get another full. I mean, that's a very different film from the first
It is,
one, you
yeah,
know?
it is, which
So
I
does
also
that-
didn't like.
Does that mean like all that was shot, or did he go back and shoot a lot of new stuff?
I don't know. I didn't read up a ton about this. I think it was some of each. I think
okay.
there was a lot of footage that was on the cutting room floor, and then they did a bunch of reshoots. But I'm not sure the percentage of that.
If you can assemble a 4-hour new film from what was left on the cutting room floor, that's bananas.
I didn't really like much of it anyway. I thought I don't know.
It's a weird decision.
I like Batfleck. I think I liked him in the Batman versus Superman. I thought that version of Batman was cool. And Jeremy Irons as Alfred is great.
Oh yeah, he is good.
And that new Batman, like the new his modern glassy house on the lake or whatever. It's a cool vibe, and it looks a lot like the Frank Miller drawings from is it The Dark Knight Returns? Is that the one that Batman Superman kind of took a lot from? Anyway, so I like that aspect. I didn't like the Flash at all. Aquaman seemed completely different than he was in the Aquaman movie. Same with Wonder Woman. Like the first Wonder Woman movie was great. This seemed like kind of a different character. The humor that they tried to have the Flash bring didn't land for me at all.
I think that role is really miscast.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I don't know. Just the effects looked shitty in a lot of places.
Well, it's such a strange decision. When you're like, all right, we're making a Justice League movie of all the iconic characters that children love. Who should we focus on? Let's focus on Cyborg.
Right, exactly. I didn't know who he was as a kid. Right.
He got so much screen time. That
I know.
character. And I guess it was to kind of I don't know, subvert expectations or something. But I was like, this is awful.
I mean, it's good to have some diversity in the cast, but
absolutely, I'm all for that.
But yeah, I don't know. That character is not that interesting, and I hated the the character design of Cyborg. I feel like it's kind of, and same goes for all the, I don't remember what they're called. All the enemies, all the villains in this.
Dude, you could say that about Flash too. He's supposed to be the fastest guy in the universe, and he's got a giant metal costume on. That's not going to be very fast. And
I don't love the super subdued colors. The Flash is basically dark blood red, instead of red. And I feel like all the enemy designs on Cyborg, they kind of went that Transformers, Michael Bay Transformers route of let's just kind of make them organic and detailed in a way that doesn't seem fitting for machines or armored beings or whatever. I don't know. It didn't seem specific enough. I didn't like the 4:3 or close to 4:3 aspect ratio. I feel like that, especially for a home audience.
So that's more boxed in, not the widescreen.
Right, exactly. I mean, this might be the grumpy old filmmaker in me, but I feel like I see that trend these days with films that are trying to be cool, or music videos where they're going it used to be in my day, you'd letterbox it to make it look widescreen on your 4:3 TV. We fought long and hard to get things 24 frames per second and widescreen, and you did everything you could to make it look more like a real movie, back in the day. And now it's I don't know if it's younger people thinking the old square TVs are cool now, but it's the opposite, where I'm no, don't make things tall and boxy and letterbox it that way. And I know this was in theory, they were shooting in open gate IMAX or whatever, the full IMAX negative, and that's just a taller format. But I don't think most of this stuff was actually shot in IMAX. Like some scenes were.
You couldn't afford to shoot the whole freaking movie in IMAX, could you?
No, well, I mean, I don't know.
Aren't those cameras like gigantic?
They are. I mean, but like TENET did a lot of it in IMAX.
Oh, really?
Anyway, like, but I could tell by a lot of the shots that they were just cropped. Like the composition of a lot of these shots was just like, you're just cutting off the sides for no compelling reason. And it made all the frames to me look very cramped and kind of the opposite of big and epic, which I think is what they were going for. And especially like, you know, most people watching this at home on their TVs, like everyone's TV is 16:9 now. So if you want to look big and epic, why not just fill that frame instead of chopping the sides off, I guess.
You're a director and you're and a DP, so you're plagued by the same curse I'm plagued by as a designer when I drive down Main Street America and look at all the signage. I'm like, oh no, why did you use that font? Why did you use that color?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's torturous, you know.
Exactly.
You just know too much.
Exactly. You recommended a good show that I have been enjoying a lot called I'm Sorry. It's not very genre-y or anything, but like it's Andrea Savage, who's a comedian. So I'm Sorry is on Netflix, and it's Andrea Savage is like the creator, writer of it, right?
And star, yeah.
And star, right, of course. And she's a comedian, and it's about probably, I'm guessing, a character loosely based on herself. She's like a comedy writer living in LA, and has like a kindergartner and a husband, and you know, it's just kind of nothing special, but she's pretty hilarious, and it's just kind of her take on, you know, being part of a couple, being a parent, living in LA, writing comedy, having weird friends,
being middle-aged,
having, you know, aging parents,
a lot of sex stuff,
implied
sex stuff,
right. But yeah, I kind of ate that show up. It was very you know, like you said earlier, you know, pandemic times, it's kind of nice to have some light entertainment. And I don't know, you know, I wasn't up for a lot of heavy stuff most nights, so just be like watching, you know, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there of something funny was often the ticket.
I think the amazing thing about that show for me is that it was just marketed so badly on True TV. Like,
I don't even know what True TV is.
It's like, I don't know what it is either, to be honest, but I have seen the broadsides and the key art for the show, and it shows like them as a couple with their cute little daughter, and it looks like it's like a really bad like ABC sitcom about like a family. And then you actually start watching it, and it's much more in the vein of like a female Curb Your Enthusiasm, to my mind.
Right.
Like, awkward situations, like living in LA, like,
and it's pretty like filthy in terms of the stuff they're talking about. It's not like a family sitcom, even though it's about a family.
I feel like the show would have been a much bigger hit if, or I think it was a flop, basically 2 seasons. But I think it could have been a hit if it had been marketed better. It's a shame.
But I would have never even found it if you hadn't told me. I mean, the name I'm Sorry has nothing to do with the show. It's so forgettable that every time, like, my wife and I would be like, what do you want to watch tonight? We'd be like, what's that show called? Oh, I'm Sorry, is that it? Yeah.
I remember I watched the first episode and I was like, that show was pretty funny. And then I was like, I couldn't find it.
What was it called?
And thankfully it popped up on my algorithm.
I saw it was like produced by like Will Ferrell and Adam McKay and like the Lonely Island guys.
Yep, Andy Samberg.
So there's definitely some like comedy power behind it. So I'm surprised it didn't end up somewhere more prominent. But anyway, very good. If you audience members out there, all 2 of you, haven't seen it, I'm Sorry on Netflix. Very, very funny. Yeah. It's got that guy.
We're up to 24 subscribers, bro. So
really?
If they have if they have a significant other, that's like 48 people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility on our hands here.
I read a bunch of great books, but I don't think nobody reads books.
No. I've been doing the thing. I mean, unfortunately, I've been doing the thing where my reading is like, you know, confined to right as I'm falling asleep. So I read like 2 pages and fall asleep with my nose in my book. And
you're
then,
right on schedule. Didn't you turn 40 this year?
41. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm reading a good book now called Spoonbenders, about a sort of a tragic family of psychics that like used to be, you know, big, and now they're kind of been debunked and are, you know, kind of all in a bad place. And it kind of is, reminds me a little bit of like Kurt Vonnegut and Michael Chabon, who are two of my favorite writers. I'm trying to remember, I'll put the name of the author in the description, but I forget who it's by, but it's called Spoonbenders. So far, so good. Enjoying that.
That's a good description.
You want to plug one book so we can
I'll plug
snag our literary crowd here?
I'm going to go safe with this book because it won I think it was either nominated for or it won the National Book Award.
Okay.
It was called Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Rumaan Alam. And it was like on all the lists, the New York Times lists. And it's kind of this like really interesting kind of post-apocalyptic thriller, but with more of it. But there's no real post-apocalypse. It's like this family that rents an Airbnb out in the Hamptons for their like, you know, one vacation of the year, and they're all so amped up to like just relax and enjoy it. And then like the first night, there's like this like knocking at the door, and it's like this older African American couple that's like claims to be the owners of the house and says that there was this massive blackout in New York City, and kind of like a panic to get out of the city, and so they want to stay. They want to stay at the house, but they already rented the house.
Oh, okay.
So like it, you know, it touches on all these like, you know, societal and like racial kind of issues that come up because there's a lot of distrust. Like I guess all the communication has been done through email. So,
Okay.
And because the internet is out now, like almost everywhere in New York, they can't really do any research to find out if it's a truth, you know.
Oh, right.
They don't seem particularly threatening, but
Right.
anyway, both families end up staying together as the story unfolds, and it's just absolutely like the tension is just like slow burn ratchets up, you know, like as this situation develops. Each chapter is devoted to a different character, so they have two young kids.
That's
and
cool.
it's the structure of the story. It's just kind of masterfully written. And
Nice.
It's like I really enjoyed it. It's like it's kind of sci-fi, but not really. And it's
I feel like that's kind of where the Spoonbenders book falls.
yeah, I thought it was great.
What's the name again?
Leave the World Behind.
Leave the World Behind. Okay, that sounds good. Well, we did something fun and actually went to a real live movie theater for the first time in over a year. I was pretty excited about that. I don't know how you felt, but
Yeah, it was great. I forgot how to use the reclining seats apparently during the pandemic.
you were like, "This one's broken."
But
Like, no, it's not. You're just pushing the wrong way.
But yeah, it was good to. I think a movie like that. The reason I wanted to see Quiet Place 2 is because I had seen the first one in digital kind of projection and display, and because the element, if viewers aren't familiar with it, the element of sound is such an important part of the plot of the film that I thought it was just thrilling in the first one, hearing it with the digital surround sound.
Absolutely.
You hear sound coming from different places and behind you. And, so I think it adds a lot to the experience rather than watching it at home.
The sound design is such a huge part of that film. So I guess we should say, like, there probably will be some spoilers of the first Quiet Place as we talk about this. If you haven't seen it, hopefully all of you have seen it by now. I actually just watched it like last week in prep for this, seeing the sequel, and I loved it. I don't usually like scary movies very much, but it's not really like horror. It's more like, it's a little horror, but kind of thriller, sci-fi, definitely scary and tense, but it's not, gory or I don't know what, there's no ghosts or anything, creepy clowns or anything
like that. Gore or anything.
Yeah,
really.
but it's definitely like super tense. But I really liked it a lot. I'd kind of been avoiding it.
You're really invested in this family's like well-being. Like in the first one and the second. It's just.
We'll try not to spoil the plot of the second one, very much so, since it's so new. So, Quiet Place 2, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Firm thumbs up.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was great. It was everything I hoped for my first movie back from the pandemic.
Yeah, I thought one of my favorite parts, which I think was in the trailers, is that right? The opening sequence to Quiet Place 2 was insane. It was like one of my favorite pieces of kind of visual tense choreographed filmmaking that I've seen in a while. So basically, it's sort of a flashback to the day when the meteors fell and the day the alien invasion started. And you get to peek into, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt and their family having a typical day in their small town in upstate New York. Baseball game, etc. And then you see the stuff fall from the sky, and then like the whole town sort of goes to hell extremely fast, and seeing how the parents react to trying to get their family out of there and stuff. It was really cool. And John Krasinski has I think it was a Vanity Fair piece on YouTube about like him breaking down that opening sequence. Really cool to sort of see how that was put together. But I mean, just such a good kind of nail-biting intro that also, is world building and character building, and it adds so much to your understanding of the first film and the second, in addition to just starting off with a bang, I thought.
Yeah, that's the definition of like getting the movie going in the first 10 pages, man. That had hearts pumping for sure.
Yeah. And then it kind of drops you back exactly where the first movie left off. And I think this film kind of broadens the scope a little bit of this world. The first film, they're kind of pretty much it's just the family all together, mostly on their farm. And in this one, you're introduced to some other characters and get a glimpse of some other areas and sort of, tribes of people that have formed. This is pretty interesting. Actually reminded me a little bit of that game, Last of Us 2, in terms of just, what do people do after, some crazy event that destroys civilization, basically. And a lot of it's not good things, yeah. Apparently, at least according to Hollywood and video games. People just turn to shit.
And also, according to our last 4 years in office.
That's true. That's true.
Things were getting pretty dicey there.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I think that he has a full-on franchise in his hands, because that you can just keep expanding that out each up, and if he can manage to keep I think what is the human heart of the story, which is this concern and this care we have for these characters that he spends so much time developing.
Right.
I think it's totally doable, because
Right.
he even introduced some new characters in this that I was like, oh, that's some cool, interesting, new, like multi-layered characters, I thought.
Super solid film. Great sequel. Lives up to the first one. I feel like the first one, for me, had a lot of emotional impact. With the family stuff and the kids and just the, I don't want to give too much away, but just, people feeling guilty about things they've done and family like expressing love or not in different ways. And just, it really struck home for me watching it recently with, having kids during this pandemic, and not like this has been anything so crazy as, aliens that kill you if you make a sound, but, just the kinds of things that kids today have had to accept as normal.
Yeah, I think you can make that jump.
The stuff that these kids have to do and they still want to be kids and they can't, was just, ugh. So the second one, by that time you're just kind of over that aspect a bit, and the story just kind of propels forward. So I wasn't as emotionally struck by the second one, but I still think it works just as well as a film and hits really hard and just did a great job through and through.
I think that's why it's such a hit, honestly, just because I don't know why Hollywood doesn't like kind of figure out like, oh, we should just deconstruct this success. Like, why are these films resonating with so many people? It's like good story, really clever construct, but then like this like underlying emotional resonance that typically is just absent from like 99% of most horror films.
Right. I mean, the setup for this was so basic. It's you're mostly just with this one family,
Yeah.
and there's hardly any talking.
Yeah.
But it works so well. Did you have anything else to add about this?
No, definitely not. This is the most I've talked in a year and a half.
That's
Are you
true.
kidding me?
we're all winded and
I'm all talked out.
we got to go home and lie down in the dark. Cool. Anything else, like anything you're looking forward to that's coming out?
No, I would add, but if I was going to add one thing, I don't know how much footage we got. I really honestly
that's
can't
fine.
tell. But
Yeah.
when we talked about sound design and what an important part it plays in A Quiet Place, there was another film that I saw in the beginning of the pandemic I forgot about that I really actually enjoyed. It was called Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed.
Oh yeah, that's on my list. I have not seen that yet.
It's on Amazon Prime, and it kind of focuses on this punk rocker who kind of starts losing his hearing. He's like a punk rock drummer. And just the anger associated with that. Just like, kind of feels like he's basically losing his whole identity.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful performance, great direction. It's a quiet little indie film. It's nothing like A Quiet Place.
Sure.
Obviously, it's much more of a character study, really an internal emotional character study. But one of the interesting things that they do with the sound design is that they drop it in and out as he begins to lose his hearing.
Right.
In certain scenes, and it's just so impactful when they do it. They also do a little bit of that in Quiet Place.
Those scenes in Quiet Place were really impactful. Like, you know, the daughter who's deaf, you sort of go into her bubble at times, and all of a sudden the sound just kind of drops out to just like a kind of like a low whine. You know, you don't really hear anything at all. So it's experiencing this world through her eyes, and like, you know, not being able to hear some of the terrifying sounds that are happening behind her or around her. And I remember John Krasinki in that Vanity Fair video was saying that this actress is actually deaf, and her mother was like in tears when she saw the movie because that was like the first time she's been, you know, sort of brought into her daughter's world, you know, or it's like a simulated version of that.
Yeah. I remember that in the first time I saw Saving Private Ryan, when Tom Hanks gets his ears blown out in that opening scene, where you're just like, that opening scene is so intense, you know? But I was just remembering being like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, like I'm in this with these characters. It was just so great.
Right, and I feel like with Quiet Place 2, more so than Quiet Place 1, it sort of falls into that almost experiential ride of a film. Sort of not, obviously it's not a one-take movie like 1917, but, you know, after that initial opening sequence, which is in itself almost a one-take sequence, you're kind of just dropped in right after the first one finishes, and you just kind of almost real-time follow these characters on a very stressful ride. So you're just kind of strapped in with them the whole time, like you said, and you know, it doesn't really like go to the end. I remember when it ended, I was like, the movie just flew by. I was like, whoa, that's it, it's over already.
That, as in contrast to Justice League, it felt like it was like 60 minutes. And,
right.
Justice League felt like it was 7 hours.
Right. 4 hours felt like 7 hours. This was like an hour 45 felt like an hour.
Yeah.
Something I am looking forward to is summer in Maine. That's basically here. I'm sweating through my shirt, sorry. It's only early June, which it's a little unseasonably hot today here, but the ocean is still cold. I'm looking forward to that warming up a little bit. Going to the beach later today. Might jump in anyway. Yeah, summer in Maine's the best, and we always have a long wait for it, so this year especially, I feel like we all deserve to get outside and have some fun.
Yeah, let's be outdoors.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning back into DORKWALKS. Episode 5. And we'll try to be back more on the regular here now that the weather's nice. And talk about some more dorky things and do some walking.
Untitled Chapter.